Hey, Ashley.
I thought I couldn't hear anything, so thank you. Now I know I can.
You're welcome. No problem. Hey, Deacon.
Hey, Michael, can you hear me?
I can,
All
and I can
right.
even see half of you.
Well, you're lucky.
For which half?
Well, well, there's more of me if you.
There you go. I got the whole thing now. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Deacon.
Hey,
Ashley. Good to see
Hello.
everybody.
Happy December.
Yeah. Dreary.
Yeah, the world is melting outside.
Yeah.
I have to
Hey, Tom.
say, I love how Mateo sent us an email with all the relevant documents all in one email. That's so awesome. Just to not have to like flip through and find them all. Thank you.
That was convenient.
I think he's a keeper.
You're welcome. It's just the draft minutes. It's the other documents are scattered among the emails.
I see. Well, that's
Oh,
super helpful. Thank you.
your fearless leaders here. Hang on. There he is.
Let it go to his head.
Hello.
How are you, Nathan?
What's that?
How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing okay.
Yeah, I'm I bought a new computer, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get it set up yet. Just a little, need a different cable, and so I'm still stuck with my very slow laptop, and it's grinding my gears a bit, but the next meeting, I'm going to be totally squared away and not have these technical problems. So for now, I'm here on my phone. It looks like oh, we have a few people here. I see. We have Sirius. I see Allison
we have
there.
quorum.
We have quorum. Okay.
Nathan, you're still in the waiting room as well. How'd you do that?
Admit me, please.
I did. You're joining.
Thank you. I did that because I'm trying to sign in simultaneously on my laptop, but I think it maybe just crashed. I don't know. Anyway, so I see we have Steve, Robert, and Michael, Ashley.
Everyone except Jeff.
Everyone except Jeff. Okay, and Deacon. Okay, yeah. Well, I will call this meeting of the planning board to order, and we will
Oh, look at that.
get going. I'll note that the meeting is being recorded. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? No. All right, I'm going to just make a quick comment, which is that I would like to formally, or at least publicly, welcome our new land use clerk, Mateo Pingalo, who's, that's right, a little round of applause. This is his second regular meeting, and he's been already doing a lot of work catching up on minutes and things like that. So we're all very happy that we have him working with us. Mateo, thank you so much. It's not entirely a volunteer position, but it's still greatly appreciated that you're doing this work, and it's very good for the town and inhabitants of Shutesbury as well that you're with us. Well, thank you very much for that.
Delighted to be here.
Good. I'm glad that you're delighted to be here. Okay, we also have next on our agenda, landowner education and guidance. Now, I know we have at least one group here that is, well, yeah. Is there anyone that falls into that category tonight? Oh, hi, Jeff. Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Entering late from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Sorry, thanks.
Oh, no worries. So, and we'll probably expect you to drop off at some point if you're getting on a plane, right?
No, actually, we delayed it. We're leaving on Thursday, so I'm here for the duration.
Oh, you are? Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, no problem. It's good news that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I do have minutes next on the agenda. However, because I know that Allison Gage is here from FERCog, I'm going to ask that Allison go ahead and kick off their presentation, which is about the pollinator friendly zoning. And I would love to give you a little bit more of an introduction, Allison, but I'm just going to let you go ahead and take it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm glad this worked out. Deerfield was supposed to have a whole site plan review ahead of me, and it was postponed, so this worked out. So I am a planner at the FERCog, and one of the projects that we've been working on for the past couple of years is a regional pollinator habitat corridor action plan. So back in 2019, we started this process with 8 towns in Franklin County. And then over the past 2 years, we expanded it to include the towns of Shutesbury, Deerfield, Coleraine, Buckland, and Ashfield. And this project is landscape scale. So we've been looking at towns across the county to see how we can improve pollinator habitat through town regulations or different practices. So the part of the planning process that I've been working on is going through town zoning to see how we could potentially improve them to make them more pollinator friendly. So tonight I'll give a really brief presentation on some of the background of the plan and then go through the proposed recommendations that could make your zoning a little bit more pollinator friendly. Shutesbury already has very strong zoning in terms of protecting the environment. So yeah, I was very happy when I was going through them. So we started this project because of the increasing evidence of the decline in pollinators. This has been largely due to fragmented habitat, makes it more difficult for pollinators to travel from different nectar sources and food sources, also invasive species, also the increased use of pesticides, different diseases and parasites. About 28% of bumblebee species are in decline, and most of you probably heard about the decline of monarch butterflies. That's been in the news over the past couple of years and is pretty alarming. So when we talk about conserving pollinators, it's important to know what they need. So they need nectar sources, pollen sources, and larval food sources. So like most other species, it's food and shelter, but many pollinators have a pretty narrow range of plants that they can eat, especially in the larval stage. Most commonly, we talk about monarchs needing milkweed. pollinators also need nesting sites, so ground nesting, and overwintering sites. So when we've been doing this pollinator planning work, we've been thinking about how towns can improve all those or how to better support all life stages of pollinators. So the regional plan includes general information about how to support pollinators. It also includes some of the model language for that any town could look at to update their own land use regulations, even if we haven't been specifically looking at them. It also includes pollinator corridor mapping for all of the participating towns. So that looks at where there's existing pollinator habitat and different areas in town that would be most beneficial to expand pollinator habitat so that there are more, that there's more connectivity between different pollinator habitat sites. And then we also have a toolkit which includes a pretty extensive plant lists for different habitats that are most commonly found throughout Franklin County, such as plant lists that are specific to farm fields or the edge of farm fields where that's great for pollinator habitat. And so in your town plan that is now available for public review, it's on the town website if you're interested in taking a look at it. It has all of those maps, a summary of a workshop that was held. I can't remember when, maybe a year ago, but a summary of what was discussed in terms of how to build out pollinator habitat in Shutesbury, along with different funding sources and implementation partners for that work. And then just as a background, if you are interested in looking at the maps, just the behind the scenes of how we put those together. So we used MassGIS land cover land use data and then boiled that down into types of land cover that are most suitable for pollinator habitat. So on the left, you can see the MassGIS data is pretty granular in terms of different types of land cover. And then we boiled that down into then on the right, you can see the sunny open landscapes and forested open wetlands as the two main types of pollinator habitat. And then these maps are based on the workshop. So we mapped where there are already pollinator sites in town along with pollinator opportunity sites. Those are on the left, and then on the right, we mapped current pollinator corridors, and then the pink bubbles are what we call stepping stones, so areas where pollinator habitat could be expanded or enhanced so that there's more connectivity in town. And if you're interested in taking a closer look at those, they're in the town action plan. And then the last part of the plan is working on a concept design just of one location in town, which would point out where you could put pollinator habitat, and then that'll come along with a potential plant list. So now I'm going to pull up the proposed recommendations. So again, when I went through your zoning, there's already a lot of great language in there that helps to protect wildlife habitat. And I looked at it with a lens of where adding in some type of provision for pollinator habitat can make a difference. So, everywhere where there was like wildlife habitat, not just going to throw in the word pollinator. So the first section I looked at was the open space design bylaw. There are a couple of density bonuses listed, and some other towns in their open space design bylaws that have density bonuses, they'll offer a provision for building out pollinator habitat and you know, you could also, if that's of interest, you could figure out how much pollinator habitat they would have to provide in terms of acreage. I think Montague put in at least 5 acres as a requirement. You could also consider adding language to your wireless communication facilities bylaw, so that there's a requirement for any of those, the planting that's done around the facilities be native and provide pollinator habitat. For your ground-mounted solar bylaw, there's already some pollinator requirements for when it's when the installation is converting forest. And I added in some language there to also reference the UMass pollinator-friendly solar PV guide, only because those requirements are specific to providing habitat for specialist bees in Massachusetts. So it's just a little bit more stringent in terms of what would be required to be planted. So we've been suggesting that in towns that we've been working with. And then in the control of vegetation, we also recommend that the owner operator conduct annual monitoring of pollinator plantings, and then that they replant native flowering plants as needed. Under site plan review, again, most of it was strong in terms of environmental protections, but you could consider adding specific language in there for wildlife and pollinator habitat areas using native trees and plants. And the same thing for special permits. And then subdivision regulations, I don't think these have been updated in a while. They're similar to other towns that adopted them back in the 80s. So I added in some recommendations for roadways because we're coming off of a watershed scale zoning project which had an emphasis on water quality. And I spent a lot of time looking at road lists and couldn't help but notice that there are opportunities to update those to reduce the amount of impervious surface that'd be required. And it's a little tangential, but you know, reducing the amount of roadway would mean that you're limiting the amount of brush and vegetation that's removed. So I wanted to add those in here as well. And yeah, similar thing with the cul-de-sacs. The model subdivision regulations recommend 50-foot radius and oh, sorry, for the road updates, the recommendations come from Mass Audubon's bylaw review tool for low impact development. So they provided these recommendations in terms of road widths and yeah, how to reduce impervious surfaces. And then under the required improvement section of the subdivision regulations, there are references to plantings, but the references in the regulations mentioned a list that's on file with the town hall, and I don't know if those are still maintained. So if they aren't, then that could be a section to update and reference more up-to-date lists or more specific plant lists. So that's what I have in terms of you know, proposed recommendations to improve pollinator habitat, but happy to answer any questions. Yeah, Michael.
Allison, nice to meet you in person, so to speak.
Yeah, you too.
I had 2 questions. So we had special town meeting last week, and in the meeting, one of the people who was speaking said, I just got the FERCog plan today. So I'm wondering, where does it live on our town website? You know?
That's a good
Who's like,
question.
who's
Is
the
it
lead?
Tom's laughing, so maybe it's not on the town website? No, it's not. Okay, I thought it was. I will check with Tamsin and see who she sent it to.
Thanks, Michael. That was my question too.
Okay, it's a great question. Where's the pollinator plan?
Well,
Yeah,
and
I
then-
can. Yeah, I'll figure that out.
Okay, and then the other question was just in terms of timing coordination. So if this is part of the next phase for Rankin County, so we've got a bunch of towns going through, is the idea that at Springtown meeting, we would have something ready, or do we miss some opening that FERCog has to comply with, that we have to comply with, or?
No, I mean, there's nothing that you have to comply with on my end. My intention was just to provide recommendations, and then boards can incorporate them as they see fit. Some towns are putting together what they would be bringing forward in the spring, and this fits in. Some are saying, okay, maybe we're going to wait for our next special town meeting. I don't know what Shutesbury's plans are, but some towns are, trying to wrangle the ADU bylaw. So that's kind of, yeah, where things are at. And if you would need support in terms of like a public hearing, then, that could be worked out next year.
If all ADUs can have a green roof?
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, Robert.
Thank you, Allison. I was just reflecting upon myself as a landowner, and if there was such a thing as a pollinator planting visiting consultant that I could call and say, look, I want to go with it in my backyard. Can you come with a packet of seeds and just take a look and see what should happen? I'd be ready to go, and I'm just wondering whether there's any sense that type of approach might enhance the happening of pollinator planting spreading.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, the Franklin Conservation District right now just so happens to be offering a program where you can get in touch with them, and they'll do a 1-hour site visit with property owners to do just what you explained. So if you're interested, I can put that in the chat before I hop off, if you'd be interested in that.
It's great. Yes, thank you.
Yep. Miriam?
Yeah, those are great suggestions. And I don't know if the town would take a role in this, but I know that on social media, like Nextdoor in the past, sometimes in the spring, people have advertised if they're dividing their gardens and they have native pollinating plants that they're willing to give to people. I often have them to give away. I have, I think, 18 flower beds of pollinator friendly plants. It's too bad I'm not on your map because we definitely have a pollinator heaven going on in our yard right now. But if you're looking for some plants, I certainly could help out in the spring.
Great.
Allison, just so you know, you can't put anything in the chat. We don't have chat.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
But I was gonna say, thank you very much, Allison, for the presentation, everyone, for questions. But at this time, I would like to keep things moving. So again, thank you, Allison, for that presentation. And I did hear that if we take up the discussion next year, offline, we had you kind of indicated there was a grant for this year for this that ends at the end of this year. But what can you, before we wrap this up, speak to what involvement FERCog could have with us if we decide to pick this up next year?
Yeah, I've just been hearing from towns that what would be helpful is support during a public hearing. So if that's the barrier for towns, I'd be happy to figure out how to make that work, whether it be through DLTA or, another pot of funding.
Okay.
Yeah, just providing that level of support.
So like by that, do you mean, coming to like a representative from FERCog coming to a public hearing to provide the testimony?
Yeah, exactly. Just provide, ahead of time. Yeah. Summarizing why these changes are important, what they are, purpose, all of that. Yeah.
Excellent. Anything, anyone else, feels urgently to raise before we, close this?
Alice and Jeff Weston here. Thank you so much for all of your excellent work and bringing awareness to the importance of pollinators for all living forms. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you all for having me. And Nathan, if I sent you the Franklin Conservation District info, would you be able to send it to Robert?
Yeah, I did forward the information you sent me to the board, so everyone should
Okay.
have that in their email and,
Okay.
yes, so,
All right. Great. Thank you so much. See you all later. Bye.
thank you, Allison. Okay. Let's see. All right, I know, give me 1 second here. Okay, has Peter Gies joined us?
No, he's not here.
He's not here. Okay. All right. I do see that we have Serious Community here. So let's talk to Serious Community about they are looking to submit a special permit application. And Robert, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just want to say that as I'm on the board of directors at Sirius and also a supporter of the plan, I would recuse myself from decision making on this case.
Thank you, Robert. And yes, that's a good point. Good to know. All right. So we have who do we have with us from Sirius? Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Linda Reimer. I'm president of Sirius and have been a supporter of this project since we began it. My husband, who's now deceased, was the primary person who started the project. And our project engineer is here, who's been working on this project with FARCOG and with all the official things, and he's here to speak officially to the proposal.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Rick Monroe. I'm an engineer. I was a friend of Bruce's. I attempted to find out where to turn in these 6 copies today and couldn't get an answer as to where they went or where we paid it. So the physical copies weren't turned in to Nathan. I believe I sent to you the electronic version of it. I don't know if you got to see it at all.
I haven't reviewed it yet, but I did receive the attachment in my email. Yes.
Okay, I don't know that one was even signed. Where do I turn this in?
So I think that you should be able to just bring, you can mail it by any form of mail, or I think you can bring it into town hall and deliver it to the land use clerk tomorrow during their office hours. Was it I saw your email, Rick, that you spoke with the clerk and that they
spoke with the town.
So you spoke with the town clerk?
Yeah, she said she had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
But it says on the form town clerk, which is why I was.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit taken aback too. State statute indicates that, you file a special permit application with the town clerk and then also provide a copy to the special permit granting authority. So, I would imagine, and the clerk would provide you with a receipt. So you should be able to bring it in to town hall and give it to someone in town hall and receive a receipt for that. And upon doing so, that'll start the clock for, all the processes that go into this. So I'll try and clarify with our town clerk what the processes are. Michael?
Yeah, just piggybacking on that conversation, I think it'd probably be helpful for all just to sort of say that if we're having a conversation tonight, it's pre-submission, so until Bruce, until Rick, you sort of submit that to the town clerk and you get a receipt that it's not officially submitted, which doesn't mean we can't talk about it tonight, but just in terms of clarifying procedure, since we've been trying to get clear on that just as a board over the course of time, I wanted to point that out.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of going to be my next question is, right now we have an electronic copy of, the submission. I think you said it was unsigned, Rick?
I don't think that one has a signature on it. No. It might,
Okay.
I'm not sure. I was sort of, I have a lot of projects when I was sort of in a hurry when I put it together. But I have to say that, I did attempt to submit it today. My plan was to come up here today and do this, but, it can get done tomorrow. It's not the end of the world.
Well, we appreciate the flexibility on your part. And so, with clear intent to submit, would it be reasonable for us to set a date or talk about kicking off the process for a public hearing, or do we need to actually wait till we have it in hand and be able to review it in the meeting first?
Well,
Why do they have to?
you have it electronically at this point, but, we
Right.
can go over what it is, and you can tell me, what your issues are.
Well, I mean, that's more of a question for the board as far as what we, procedurally, what we can do at this, pre-submission point or yeah. Yes.
If you're asking opinions, I think that what I think is it's premature to set a date for a public hearing, but I think, what we like and what's in the bylaws is that we encourage applicants to come before the board and get feedback before they submit. So technically, this is our draft plan that's essentially finalized, but if we want to give them feedback before the submission, that, right, Deacon?
One thing I would say is that we have to send copies to other boards with a period of time in which they can respond. So the meeting date is partially determined by that. It'll have to be after that period. So
Right.
it's a ways off at this point.
Right. And I think what's the is it 65 days from the actual submission, which hasn't, we haven't gotten to it?
The number in my head is 35, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a substantial number of weeks.
Right.
Whatever the
No, it is.
and we should agree, I think we should agree to keep in touch about the date of the meeting. Because the applicant certainly deserves some input on the date too.
Oh, yeah, of course. All right, well, does somebody want to bring up the draft we have and share it? Maybe Michael, do you want to bring that up on your screen and we can take a look? Michael, you're muted, so I don't know if you said yes or no. Okay.
I'm gonna ask a question while Michael's bringing it up because I'm a pretty close abutter to I don't know if I'm an abutter. I'm across the street from Sirius and I'm looking at the draft and I see that our property is listed.
Yes.
Does that mean I'm an abutter?
Well,
Yes.
the property is really big, so everybody on the street for a very long ways is considered.
An abutter. So I guess I'm gonna need to recuse myself as well, right?
That's sounds to be correct.
Okay.
Fortunately, we have two associate members who I'm sure will be happy to serve as full members for purposes of administering this submission once we get that.
Any preferences to where I go? Should I just start at the beginning or are there
Yeah,
pictures?
yeah. I haven't really had a chance to look through it yet. So go ahead and and obviously we did just get this evening, so there's going to be a limit to the usefulness of this conversation. But I mean, I think if people could just take a quick peek at it and see if there's anything, especially those of you who have had some been on the planning board for a long time and have had some experience with the special permit process. If there's anything that kind of jumps out that we might want to raise at this time.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Since I'm the one who wrote this thing, maybe I should just go over it as we go through page by page. I can tell you what it says. Anybody has any questions, I can answer them, most of them on the spot, to see what we're going through with this. It would be good for people to understand the background of how the project got to where it's at now, which is partially completed. And, that drives a lot of what's going to be going on. There's a few questions I have about some of the requirements that seem somewhat unclear to me. So when we get to those, I'm gonna have to ask some questions, but perhaps I should start out by going through the justification for special permit part and sort of letting you know. Because I mean, I can write only so much in that space, but I could probably go over it, story-wise fairly quickly.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
This project was started in 2007 by Linda's husband, Bruce, who unfortunately about 7 years ago passed on. Now, when he started it, Ceres, of course, relies on a lot of charitable donations to run a lot of these projects. There are people who come in and put up money. And 2008, of course, needless to say, with the economic crash, the money dried up. And not too long after that, right along that same strand, Bruce, who did tree work for a living, fell out of a tree and broke his back in about 4 places. And that, needless to say, slowed things down quite a bit. Now, I didn't have much to do with this project back then, though I did design the foundations. I'm a mechanical engineer. They were approved and stamped by a professional engineer, civil engineer by the name of Bob Jennings. The foundations and tree work were all done back then, and the foundations were laid into the bedrock, and they were approved by Jim, the building inspector. And at that point, things for Bruce went rather downhill. And subsequently, he passed on not too long after that. Things slowed down quite a bit. Now, after that, of course, UMass showed up and one of the professors said, we'll put it up. And after 2 years of nothing happening, they asked me if I could help, and that's when COVID happened. So the project needs a new building permit. It already had one, but it's long since expired. In order to get the new building permit, they need to go through the planning board special permit application, though there was no such thing back at the time that they started. They also ran into National Grid, who just spent 2.5 years of my time on giving authorization to put in the wind turbine in spite of the fact there's already a 100% net meter on the community center where it's hooking up to. And information for you folks, I found out while talking to their engineers that they lost virtually all of their information on renewable energy installations in Western Mass prior to 2017, including the one for this building, even though it has a net meter and it's on the bill. They lost the ones for their longhouse and took the net meter out, probably I'm guessing about 7 years ago, and hadn't been paying for the power since then. And they had records only of the Phoenix house set up. So all of this resulted in their putting the whole thing together and claiming the single parcel rule was violated, even though all of it predated the single parcel rule's existence. And this went on and on and on until not too long ago, I told them everything they discussed with me had to be in writing and copied it all to an attorney, whereupon suddenly within just a few weeks, everything got straightened out and approved. What a miracle. So our next step is now to go to the planning board due to the amount of time that has passed to do this. Now you should understand that this particular wind turbine is at least 800 feet from the nearest abutter's dwelling. It's 1,200 feet from most of the borders, which is almost a quarter mile. So it's not going to be seen by anybody unless they trespass on the property. I don't think it's even going to be heard by anyone. Even at high winds, the wind through the trees will wipe out the noise. So it's actually a very good place to put it. It shouldn't bother any of the neighbors. I don't think anyone will be able to see it, at least not from any place in this town, unless you want to climb up the church steeple. That's kind of where the project is at now. The underground transmission line was laid down long ago under the supervision of a licensed electrician and myself. The electrician, I'll get his permission to put his name on it later. He's somebody you might probably know. He said, yeah, just keep an eye on them. I'm a mechanical engineer. I know how it's supposed to be put in. So it's been installed properly. I checked it out. I spec'd out the wire and everything else. So what we have now is we have the transmission line and the foundations. The wind turbine was purchased long ago. The tower was purchased long ago with it. All of the engineering stuff has been done. We're to the point of literally putting the tower together and getting a crane operator in there to install it. Now, the road to get the crane in is the old road that went up to the top of the hill they've been using for their walkway for themselves and the retreat center guests to go to their stone circle. So that's been pretty much maintained and is already there. So like I said, at this point, a lot of it was already done. So it'd be kind of hard to change a lot of it, but I'm pretty sure all of it very, very much conforms to what you want. The only thing that's new now is they're supposed to put up a fence around it, which I've personally always wanted them to do, and they have agreed to do. And then they want to put plantings up there. Any trees we had to take down to get the tower up that are not necessary for the tower to stand will be allowed to regrow. Other areas that need to be kept clear around the tower are going to be planted with, I've heard discussions of berry bushes, short trees and other such things that would be good for the environment and, be worthy of being maintained. I've suggested grapevines for the fence. That's about where it's at. Now, we're going down to the original building permit application. It had an error. They thought it was 140 feet tall. It's actually 120 feet tall. And so the new application will be for only 120 feet. And that's a height of 133 feet, 6 inches to the blade tip. So I'll stop there. I'm sure some people have questions at this point.
I have a question, Jeff Weston here. I imagine that there's some requirement for that there can't be too much of a delay between an engineer certifying whether something is safe and then the permit actually happening. Does anyone know anything about the time space between an engineer certifying the safety of a particular project and the permit being applied for or acquired? I imagine there must be some time set up that it must be approved, and then within a certain amount of time, it must happen. I'm wondering whether that delay has been too long now, if we're talking about 10 years or so.
Well, the PE stamp is forever. And I know this from friends who have PE stamps who've worked into their 90s to keep paying for their insurance because they're on the hook for the rest of their life. And you see guys in their 90s who are working just to buy their insurance. The PE stamps for the foundation and the PE stamp from Roan Tower are forever. Roan still exists. Bob Jennings is still around. Once they're stamped, and the PE engineer has to live with the outcome literally till they die. That's why I never got a PE stamp. I don't want to have to go through that personally.
Well, thank you for that clarification.
Not a problem. I understand the question.
I just have, I don't know, an observation, maybe not a question, but I mean, Rick, what I hear is that there's a lot of the parts that you identified are sort of there waiting to just be assembled. And I think what I'm hearing is that would make the project go quicker if approved, but I don't think it changes our review of the project in the sense that we still have to sort of look at it as a whole package, as a proposal with all the different parts on the front end, you know, and once it gets approved, if it gets approved, then it can move fast. But I don't think it fundamentally changes anything in terms of our review that the components are sort of waiting to be assembled. So this is sort of.
I don't even know how far they got. That's all. I thought, you know, this is how far they got. But the building inspector said you're going to have to reapply for the permit. He's good with the old application as is, but the new hoop is, of course, the planning board.
Right. That makes sense. Rick, earlier on, you had alluded to some areas that where you had some questions. Would you like to talk about that?
Okay. If you go down, just keep going, keep going. Oh, hang on, go back up just a little bit, just for a moment. The green thing is where Jim signed off on the foundations long ago, just so you know, that was officially done. This was all being done by the book before, so no one's trying to, cut anybody out here. You go down to the next page now. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to discuss. I went through your requirements, and one of the requirements I had before I start discussing this, it said that the thing, of course, had to be laid out by a licensed surveyor who is considered a professional engineer. But then it said it had to be signed off on by a professional engineer to say that it's far enough away from a butter's property lines it houses. It's 7 to 8, I think it's 700 feet from the nearest property line. Most cases it's over 1,000. And is not the licensed surveyor, professional engineers, survey showing it's that far away sufficient to cover that? Or do they have to spend another $1,200 to have a PE engineer say that 700 is more than 400? So I was kind of wondering if that's something that, you're going to have to do. I know in your public hearing, you're going to have to decide that. But, if that's something they're going to have to go spend money on, I'm going to have to hunt down a civil engineer to stamp the licensed surveyor's plan. But it seems to me the licensed surveyor already stamped it. So I'm unsure as to really what it is you want.
Does anyone want to take a stab at that?
I think in the interim, we might want to consult with Jeff. If Deacon and Steve are not familiar, checking with Jeff Lacey about some of these questions might be helpful since we have the luxury of some time.
Okay, I mean, it's just, it's a question that would be good to answer before I go and spend my customer's money on a rather expensive stamp that I'm uncertain as to why it is needed. But, you can change requirements as you see fit. I would understand if this was close enough to someone's property line that there might be some question about its exact siting and distance, but it's so very, very far away As I said, I don't think anybody will see or ever even hear it. It's so far out in the woods. So if they need to do that, they need to do that. But it's for you folks to discuss amongst yourselves and decide. I just need to throw the question out there and have it addressed.
It was always already approved once.
Well, that was before they changed the rules. Now it's under the new rules.
I would note that pretty much any requirement here is waivable.
It would be much appreciated if that could be waived. It is literally so very far away that I doubt anyone at the property line would be able to even hear it. I know they're not gonna be able to see it. You can't really see it from the community center, which is right here, the bottom of the hill. I really doubt you'll be able to lay eyes on it.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able, maybe we could just deal with it at a site visit.
Yeah, that would be fine. I think if you saw where it was,
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question. So you're talking about requirements that are in the Shutesbury zoning bylaw under the windmill, or the wind
Section
energy.
H7, wireless communication facilities.
Okay. Well, is that even,
Deacon, it's not wireless. It's the wind turbine. It's 8.8.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
but anyway, so, it says you have to have a professional engineer certify that it's that the location is such distance from the property line in that section of the bylaw, but that the plan only has is only stamped by a licensed surveyor.
It's stamped by a licensed surveyor, but technically a licensed surveyor is a professional engineer. They come under that heading. But, at the same time, what sort of licensed engineer do they want? It doesn't say. I mean, can I have a licensed electrical engineer sign it? You would imagine civil, but a surveyor should be sufficient to say how far away it is, and they already did. So that's why I'm sort of confused, because it seems redundant.
Rick, do you have the number? I'm looking at this section now. I'm not seeing where that's referenced. In 8.8.
Have it in front of me. It was in there.
Oh, if what you're saying is true, that a surveyor is under the umbrella of the professional designation of a professional engineer, and a surveyor is stamped a plan that clearly shows that it's such distance from the property lines, then I don't know how you would be able to say that you didn't meet a requirement that a professional engineer certify its distance from the property lines.
It says that you need a licensed surveyor to lay it out, but then it says it needs a professional engineer. It seems redundant. It seems like it's sort of been said twice in a way. And
there are certain elements of zoning bylaws that can have things exactly like this. And when we do that, we just when we get into the nuts and bolts of making a decision, we have to do the best we can to achieve a reasonable outcome. The board is not here to say, oh, we got you. You didn't have you didn't do this figure 8 10 times or whatever it is. It's and as Deacon said, a lot of the I mean, generally a special permit application, a special permit decision, right? It's a discretionary process, right? So the idea is to give the planning board, which is a quasi judicial body, the ability to make a judgment on an application for a specific land use. And to say, okay, we have a bylaw that, dictates, what requirements are for whether or not this should be allowed and what kind of, conditions should be imposed. And if, in any, judgment there too, we would need to be reasonable. And it would not benefit us or the inhabitants of Shutesbury if we were unreasonable or arbitrary and capricious. I don't know if that helps to answer your question.
It does.
I
Part of
was
this is-
wrong. Michael was right to correct me, but there's a specific waiver mentioned in 882. I mean, I think this is a waivable thing if we choose to.
Okay.
I would point out that some of what I'm doing also is for the greater good of, that you may look at this bylaw at some point and say it needs some cleanup, or, and it would be helpful if it was more clear how this was being done. And this is probably the first one you've done, isn't it, for a wind turbine?
As far as I know, it is.
Yes, I believe so.
So there's probably a little bit of learning to be done as to how the wind turbine goes in and how some of this stuff works. So that's fine. I'm trying not to just pursue one thing. If there's a greater good and we can do it on our way by, we should probably mention that. I would mention, there's another one in here. There's two of them in here that conflict in a strange sort of way, that you're limited to 160 feet of height. But then it states that you must be in compliance with FAA regulations. Now, FAA regulations, I know for a fact, do not regulate anything below 200 feet. The minute you say 160 feet, you've eliminated any way of ever coming under an FAA regulation anyway, for lighting it or painting it red and white stripes or anything else, because they don't regulate anything under 200 above ground level. And since this is 120 and your max is 160, you're never ever going to have that even matter.
FAA has been known to change their regulations.
They have been, but at the moment it is 200 feet. And the rule for pilots is not to fly under 500. And truthfully, if you fly under about 5,000, you're suicidal.
Well, I suspect when the bylaw was written, it was to take into account potential changes in the FAA regs.
Okay, I doubt they're going to change that one. 200 feet that's so low that it's so far below where they're supposed to be flying over a structure that they would possibly lose their license if they came too much closer. But, during foggy times, they want to know it's there. If it's over 200 feet, they need to know it's there. If it's under 200 feet, that's considered flying into the ground. I took pilot trainings many years ago, and that was something they really drilled into. So, you could have it, you should figure at this point, it's never really going to apply.
Nathan?
No, understood, Rick. This is kind of like was it a belt and suspender kind of thing, right? Maybe the FAA regs probably won't change, but you never know when we might decide to change our regs too, right? So if we were to up the height limit in our bylaw, then that would be kind of already there, ready to take effect, or potentially if we were to waive a height requirement, then that would also be there. We would still need to potentially abide by any regulations laid out by the FAA. Michael?
Yeah, I was just going to say, since we have more stuff on the agenda, that if there's things that we have questions about specifically, or if Rick and Sirius have questions, we should do that as opposed to sort of get into a critique of the bylaw at this point, because we have other stuff to do.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, yeah. So any more questions, Rick?
I don't have any more questions. I can just go over this list that you can see there of, the responses to various parts of the section that I believe cover things. That won't take too long. And at the end of that, we'll have a good idea if there's anything that, is felt that needs to be looked into on our end, if that sounds okay.
Sure.
I'm just going to get back to it. Hold on a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
What page are we on now?
Let's see, let's drop in and out.
7.
7, I think. Okay, I go up a
We
little.
we just discussed G.
Yeah, we just discussed G. So go up a little more, keep going, keep going. Right there. Okay. Let's see, the blade tip height on this is 132 feet, 8 inches, well below the 160-foot requirement. Minimum distance from the turbine to the nearest abutter's dwelling is 700 feet to the property line. It's probably closer to 800. And the required distance of 3 times 132 is 398. So it's almost twice as far. The base of the tower will be enclosed by a 6-foot high fence to prevent unauthorized access. The tower is gray zinc and white with black blades, which is standard. So it will not be visible due to its location from anywhere probably below 80 feet of elevation in this town. Therefore, it meets the criteria for not being obtrusively colored. The installation is not visible at the property line of any abutter by a very long ways. Your site visit will make that very obvious should you have them. Okay, next up, construction, operation, and maintenance will be consistent with all applicable laws, but of course, the laws are there and you have to obey them. Berging wind documents detailing operation and maintenance requirements are appended. They're very low. Once the thing has been put up, you don't operate it, it just runs. And maintenance consists of my checking the hardware once after a month, again after 6 months, and then not again for 5 years. Bergies tend to run 20 years with no maintenance of any kind. So maintenance is really pretty small. Let's see, they are on the approved list of California Energy Commission and pretty much everyone else's, they've made a point of that. Installation, of course, will comply with state building codes. It has to, there's no choice. Jim will not let me go forward with the project if it's not following that, and neither will Maurice, the electrical inspector. The installation has been approved by National Grid after much to do with a PV 100% net meter. And the small wind energy system does comply with the Massachusetts noise regulations. I have appended the documentation that Bergie has about sound levels, which are professionally provided to them. And they paid a fairly large amount of money for that. And that's the whole thing right there. I'm pretty sure they have everything, but it's up to you to decide if you need anything else.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all that with us, Rick. And so as as alluded to, once we have that paper application tomorrow, we'll Mateo will be in town hall. He can give you a receipt for that. We'll send it out to other boards, and we will be in touch at some point to figure out when we can hold a public hearing to formally kick off that process, and just hit every step of the way for that, including noticing and other requirements.
Good. Could I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
Are you intending to have a lithium battery storage battery attached to this this wind turbine? It doesn't. I mean, you have every right to do so. I'm just curious whether you have decided to do that or not.
Absolutely not. The fire hazard of it, in my opinion, is not worth it. The price is extremely high. If these people go later on with any storage, it'll be lead acid, which are safe. They don't burn. They don't catch fire. They're well known, 200 years of history, and they're much cheaper. So no, I would not advise anyone to get lithium ion, and my customers here are not interested in those.
Thank you for the information. I certainly agree. Especially with net metering, there's no real reason to have a lithium ion battery as well. So thank you so much. Actually,
that's not really true anymore. They've changed the net metering for all new installations to a 60-40 split, where they keep 40% of the energy.
I just had a solar. I mean, we're digressing.
Listen, we digress. Let's shut this down.
I say that to go look it up. You can look it up and you'll see it. And yes, it's not good. I will not advise anyone to get net metering from this point forward. It's no longer economically viable. I do have a question, however, that I need to ask you folks. I believe there was an $800 filing fee for this permit. And this place being a nonprofit, I was wondering if any or all of that could be waived. That was something I would like you to consider. They can, I guess, pay it up front, but it seems like an awful lot of money.
Let's see.
I think Rick is right. We should take the money and then discuss it afterwards, but rather than spend the time discussing it now
Yeah, okay. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that? Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. So I'm going to say again, thanks to both of you for coming and presenting this information to us. And Linda, it's nice to meet you. I'm down the street, not close enough to be in a butter, but you know, I have frontage on Baker Road, so it's nice to meet you. And also, I'm sorry for your loss of Bruce. I know it's probably been a little while, but
I want to appreciate you taking the time with us, and also I remember Bruce used to be on the committees and was trying to get a wind tower behind the at one point behind the town hall, which didn't go through, and so we've been really wanting to be able to do this here. So any consideration you'll give us, I'm sure will be helpful. I'm wondering about the if you have any sense of the timing of when the next process will be, and that we might come back and speak with you again, or who we speak to again.
So the timing is I'm gonna just try and take a quick peek. It's dictated by state law, and unfortunately I'm a little out of sorts today because I'm having some technical difficulties. But there's a does anyone have like the timetable in front of them for when we have to do a special permit, the hearing, after once they formally submit the application? Is that 65 days?
Let me make it bigger if I can. Oh, see, that's not me. That's Mateo. You beat me to it.
Sorry, that's me. Yep.
Okay, 65 days plus another 14, plus another 90, plus another 14. Looks like it's around 3 months, but it is wintertime.
Well, it's within 65 days we have to hold a public hearing. Once the public hearing closes, I believe it's within 90 days we have to come to a decision, right? So yeah, so within 65 days of your filing, given the paper to us, we will, unless we have some sort of egregious circumstance that we have to beg you to, allow us to extend it, we'll have a public hearing on this. And I can, it's, I quite possibly won't actually be able to participate in the public hearing or the deliberation of this. I have my employer has a code of conduct that requires me to avoid topics of energy related infrastructure. So with all like with like the solar that is being looked at, right? That's definitely something I have to stay away from. This is a little different because it's more like it's a little different because it's behind the meter and it's very small scale. So I don't know. I'm gonna talk to him about it, but I could say just as a general rule that, once things do get moving, that nobody is going to be trying to drag their feet on this, as a general rule.
I wanted to make that point too, Nathan. I mean, the 65 day, I mean, we should really try not to use 65 days. I mean, we should really try to be quicker than that.
I would hope so.
If we can be ready by, March, that would be fine, because, we can't really do anything at this time of year. This is probably the snowiest part of town, and the top of the hill is the snowiest part of this property. So I can't get an all-terrain crane up there until March. But, if we can get it done by March, that would be very workable.
Well, I will say that, we'll do what we can to, facilitate,
And just so you know, National Grid referred to the amount of generation capacity on this property. Their engineers called it repeatedly trivial.
I also wondered if you have, as you go through the things that we've submitted, if you have any questions or anything that we need to do other than what we've already done, if you could contact Rick or myself, so we can actually give you everything that you need in order to move this forward.
okay.
We're willing to be easy. If you need something, you can have it.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, and I look forward to seeing you again in the very near future.
Feel free to come and visit these folks too. You can walk the property, they don't mind.
Thank you very much.
Are we
Thank
gonna
you.
get a definitive word about the town clerk? Should have accepted that?
We'll, I'll touch base with Grace on that. Absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
because that could lead
That's
to
something we're
delays
gonna-
too.
Well, yeah, no, that's definitely something that we can clarify.
Okay,
They'll
great.
both be there tomorrow. One of them will take it. I
Oh,
won't leave.
yeah.
I only see town clerk on all of the documentation. I'm just very confused on that one detail.
Yeah.
So thanks.
No, that's,
Find a way to get it in.
understandably so, Tom.
Thanks.
All right.
I believe that's it, and I believe we shall depart then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
you.
wonderful evening. All right.
Nathan,
Yes.
I think it may be that Grace has a confusion between receiving special permits and in subdivision applications. I think that may be the confusion.
I would agree.
Yeah, it could be that. It could have been just kind of like a.
Because that's the issue we got hung up on with Coles.
Yeah.
When they were doing subdivision applications, and we said they hadn't done it properly because they tried to give it to the town clerk.
Right. Well, and then, we don't need to get into all that. I'll definitely be reaching out to Grace, and we'll get that squared away and make sure everyone is clear on roles and expectations around this stuff.
But I think that may be the confusion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's something along those. There's definitely a gap somewhere. We'll find it and close it. All right. Next we have climate section for master plan finance committee request.
We're gonna do
Nathan, can I
Peter
just?
Keys.
Yeah, I was gonna say Peter is here now. I was hoping to ask Elizabeth, could you identify your last name for the minutes? Or not? Okay.
Murphy. My last name's Murphy.
Great, thank you.
Is that my wife?
Yes.
I'll let you deal with that, Nathan.
Yeah, Elizabeth, can I use your computer?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thanks. Peter.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about your special permit. So we received a special permit application from Peter some time ago, at least a couple weeks now. And I know that at least off the bat, we also had a comment from the Beth Wilson, the chair of the Conservation Commission, that they've been in touch with Mr. Gies and indicated that he should submit a notice of intent related to this work. So I guess I'll just put that out there and then ask you to speak to what is where we're at with that, Peter.
Okay, so the order of all of this, as I kind of reviewed it with my attorney, it seems like you never want to put the cart before the horse. The premise of the proposal and the drawing here to go for the notice of intent prior to getting the authorization for the special permit would kind of be backwards. Whereas if I go for the notice of intent and then I get denied on this special permit to have the driveway closer than the 15 feet would not be that brilliant. Henceforth, we decided that the order of business was, after getting conservation to preliminary look at the project, and they came out several times. I hired a wetland specialist to create the delineation, which was done. And then I hired a surveyor to survey and document all those locations and place it on the map with all the property and roads and buildings that were there to reflect the entire project in whole. The next order of business to me, and what my attorney also thought, concurred, was that before we go too much further with this, we need to get this special permit to ensure that that doesn't become a hangup after we get deeper into the project and spend more money. I also contacted Beth and let her know that the original supplier of the bridge was not going to be able to meet the standard that we needed for this. So we had to start over again to find a new bridge supplier. I just today, as a matter of fact, I spoke to another company that says they can meet the criteria. And what we're going to need to do for that is we're needing some soil samples and some core drilling. So again, that's going to be yet another step. I'm going to have to go back to the Conservation Commission to get their approval to do that before we even file for the notice of intent, because with the notice of intent, they require that all the engineered drawings for the bridge be there. The bridge builder says they need that soil sample survey by an engineering firm, which I'm just reaching out to this week to see what it'll take to get them out there to do that. So I understand Beth's concern, wanting to make sure that everything is moving forward. But given the fact that, you know, there's a lot of other things that have to happen before I can even submit that notice of intent, because they do require all the engineered drawings, and to get the engineered drawings, I'm going to need to get those core samples at the locations where the abutments are going to go. So the order of business right now is to get this one small issue, which could stop the whole project, approved by your board.
Peter, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I looked at this map, and I looked at the special permit application, but could you just describe what why are you doing this? Like, is because it looks like there's existing driveways and there's a proposed driveway. So I'm assuming something happened that requires a new driveway, or there's plans for something, but it wasn't clear what.
Well, the premise was twofold. It was to ensure the ability to service the trees that are constantly threatening and in the past have taken out the electrical service going to those two-family homes. And the problem that I've always gotten into is trying to get somebody in there to do the tree work. And because they can't drive and access it with a tree truck, it makes it very, very difficult. And in the winter time, I've asked National Grid numerous times when a tree took out the service, I said, why don't you, while you're here, take out this other tree? And they said, we don't take it out until it takes out the service. And so I solicited several companies as far as the tree work, and everybody wants to be able to access these trees with a tree truck and a boom. And so with the impending regulations of the state wanting everybody to abandon the burning of fossil fuels and go to heat pump systems, which I'm willing to do, then it makes it a single source of energy to heat a house in the winter. And so if I lose that, if I give up the propane and oil, whatever I choose, currently now it's all propane, and the power goes out, then my reliability goes right out the window. And so the premise is to sit here and guarantee that we can maintain, get in there on a regular basis and do tree trimming on an economical basis. And because of the downhill angles there, make sure that if it happens during an ice storm, they can drive straight through with a tree truck. And so that will enhance the reliability many fold as far as ice storms and the like. Over the years I've owned this property, that has become the Achilles heel with the property. And at the time when I developed the property, I had requested National Grid, because I was going to do the common driveway, which I ended up doing, if we could tap off an existing buried electric system. And they said, no way, you can't do that. You got to come over the property. And so we ended up doing everything overhead. And because I was going to be developing the two, we put the electric service basically right on the property line. You can see that in the plan. I think you can see between the two properties, M78 and M79. If you look out on the street, right where the dividing line is between those two properties, there is a pole, electric pole, and that is basically on the frontage of M78. But then the next pole is on M79, which is right at the end of the existing utility road. And then the third pole is back on M78. So the electric service and the fiber optics and telephone lines all come over those poles. And the idea is to create this road, which will give me access with line trucks and with tree trucks to be able to service the trees. When the project was done some 35 years ago, trees were much smaller. And in that time, trees age out, they die, and they're left standing, and many of them are leaning over the wires. And I have asked so many times, National Grid, look, you're here, we took out the service with this tree, why not get the one right adjacent to it? And their comeback is always the same thing. We don't touch trees until they make contact with the wires and you lose the power. So I've been looking at this and saying, you know what, there's one way to fix this once and for all. And so this is the project I've put forth.
That was very helpful. I have one quick follow-up, Nathan, if that's okay. So the special permit is to basically do the drive with a lesser setback than is required. And just to clarify, is it this property by Tyler Richards, this north, that would be where you'd be encroaching on a smaller setback? Is that what?
Well, it's a combination of things. What they're trying to avoid is me cutting down more trees. So conservation wants to minimize the impact on the forest. And so if we can keep the road as close to the power lines as possible, we're not having to take out more trees. So right now there is a clear swath in the under canopy immediately below the lines. And if I move it further over, we end up taking out a lot more trees, and they're not happy with that.
Thank
So
you.
that's the logic behind that.
And I'm assuming the abutter would like more trees than less trees as well.
I guess so. I think the abutter there, because that's all wetland in there. I mean, for them, it's not the high area closest to the property line is dry, but if you see the wetland delineation, you look at it where it parallels Wendell Road from Highland Drive over, you can see the wetland begins right on the north side of Highland Drive at the entry. And as it moves north, it widens up, and then it eventually hooks a turn and heads towards the east. And that wetland essentially bisects that property into two usable parcels. So the owner of that property would be hard pressed to be able to do anything with that portion of their land, because it is mostly wetland. And in this map, it doesn't depict the home, but when you look at the corner, if you follow their property line to the north, it takes a 90-degree turn. The house is beyond that 90-degree turn, and it's beyond the wetland area. But as soon as they start coming over, and these two wetlands, the wetland that is shown that's parallel to Wendell Road, then connects with the one that's shown that I'm going to cross with the bridge. And so eventually those two connect. So it kind of makes like a U shape. And I don't think that the owner of that property would have great concern about that aspect of it, because they're really never going to be able to do anything with that land as far as development is concerned. And given the new bylaw regulations as far as increasing the distance from a delineated wetland to 100 feet, I don't think that, unless they had real good justification, I don't think they're going to be allowed to cut down trees either. So
Thank you for that explanation.
I don't see that being an issue for them. But I do want to maintain as much as possible the distance away from their property line, which we are well over the minimal 15 feet. And the most important thing is to keep the road as close to the power line as possible. So a line truck is essentially directly under it for servicing the power lines.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Nathan, I think Robert has a question.
Just checking in, this question is coming from a place of ignorance, but given the immensity of the work you have to do, is there any feasibility in considering putting things underground?
I did research that because somebody else recommended. As a matter of fact, the Conservation Commission had suggested that as a possibility, and I researched that, and the cost was astronomical compared to the cost of this. And the other issue was that they weren't willing to give guarantees. And when it comes to, future changes and the like, depending upon what technologies are that come along, if anything changes, although somehow I always feel like, okay, I figured it all out. And then a few years go by or a decade and a half goes by and there's some new technology. I would love it that they'd come with the technology that says you don't need anything going through wires anymore and it can all be done through the airwaves. I think we're a few decades away from that, certainly when it comes to power. Uh, and I don't think I would like to give up my connection with the grid and try and go with a complete solar and battery system because I still have some reservations on or personal concerns about the reliability of those systems at this point in time. And, given the issues that were just discussed as far as fires and contamination uh, with the battery systems that are available right now, I think this is still one of the better options. I think, given all the work that was done recently to improve the reliability of our electric sources by tying in the two substations between Pratt Corner Road and in Wendell Depot, we now living on this street on Wendell Road, we probably are one of the very fortunate few roads where they're going to be able to isolate any damaged lines and continue back serving power from either one side or the other, either from Wendell or from Pratt Corner Road. I think what National Grid just did undertaking this project was brilliant and will greatly improve electrical reliability throughout the town, especially down at the lake, which is a dead end in that tree of service that we had with that sole substation supplying electricity to the town. And, the horror show was that whenever we'd lose power on Pratt Corner Road, basically the whole town would go dark. Now with the improvements they've made, now they can backfeed electricity from the Wendell substation and they can feed all the way back to the break point in the lines till they get those repaired. So I think that my reliability or anybody living off of Wendell Road or directly off of that three-phase service is in the best possible situation to ensure that they get power back as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. So regarding the, like the description of the request, to address the less than required side lot setback, wouldn't that be a variance and not a special permit for that? Although, I mean, I would think that, given there's an existing shared drive and having any modification to it would also be a special permit anyway, right? But am I
Here's
missing?
what happened. I did go to the zoning board of appeals and Jeff was adamant about it not being a variance.
Okay,
I think a variance sets a precedent and they don't like giving out variances. And his answer was you need to go to the planning board and apply for a special permit.
okay.
That would cover the issue. That was his explanation and what my understanding of it was. So I did go before the ZBA and actually requested a variance for this, and they rejected it and they said go to the planning board and request a special permit. So if you need to, you could take that up with Jeff to see what he was thinking exactly, but that was his response when I had approached the ZBA.
Off the top of your head, do you know when that was that you went to the ZBA?
I'm gonna say it would have been about 2 months ago. It should be in the minutes. So 2 meetings ago. I don't think, do they meet? I don't think they meet every month. I think they meet on an as needed basis, or is it your?
They probably don't have too many meetings posted, so I can just go.
Right, yeah, I think
The
it's an as needed basis they meet. So it would have been about 2 months ago.
All right. Thank you. Robert, do you have your hand up again, or did you just leave it up from last time?
I just left it up. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything they want to say right now, or no? Should we talk about scheduling a hearing, or do we need to send this out? Matteo, has this been sent to other boards at this point?
It was sent out, and Beth's response about the NOI was the only response that I received.
Okay.
Nathan, it was the November 8th CBA meeting.
Okay. Should we talk about scheduling a public hearing then? I'm seeing a nod from Michael. Okay.
Well, it seems like a good idea to me.
All right.
I'm looking at the actual application and I don't see a date, so if we want to look at, not that we want to do the maximum 65 days, but what's the date of the application?
I know Matteo stamped it. Let me see if I can find the paperwork. I think I have it in a file. Hold on.
So it would have been stamped by Grace, not me. I can't certify the receipt of things. It was received. Let's see here. November 19th.
Did you find it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was November 9th.
Okay.
You thought it has to be within
Just
hearing.
exactly 2 months ago. A month? Yeah, a month ago.
We wanted,
It would have been a month prior to, I think it was, trying to think how many weeks it was prior to that. It wasn't that long. After I had that zoning board meeting, then I went directly to Matteo to file for the special permit.
Nathan, we could do our January meeting. Who knows how busy that meeting is going to get, but
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to have some extra meetings, regardless. So, that might be the easiest thing to do. We need to do, Matteo, do you feel like you've get a good handle on what the noticing requirements are for a public hearing?
Yes.
Can you go through that for us?
I mean, the noticing requirements will be sending out the list to the abutters, which we already have. The abutters list. Peter got that from the assessors, and we send it to. It has to be in the Franklin recorder, the Greenfield recorder for 2 notices, right? Was it like I think 4 weeks and 2 weeks before the actual hearing, right?
Okay.
And it has to be posted up on the bulletin board in town hall that nobody sees.
All right. Yeah, all right. Well, I think shooting for our January meeting sounds reasonable. So we'll kick that off. Do we need to vote to do that?
couldn't hurt. You want to
Yeah.
make a motion?
Yeah, I would suggest a formal motion.
So I will move that we have a public hearing on a special permit application by Peter Gies for, let's see, property 28-30 Highland Drive, assessor map M78 on January 13th, 2025.
Why don't you put a time in that,
Oh.
motion?
Did you ship the date?
January 13th, 2025 at 7:15. We want to do it on the front end?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Or thereabouts.
Well, it's gonna have to be in the posting. I fucked that one up.
Okay, so you want to do 7:15, 7:10? What?
7:15. We'll just toss.
7:15.
We can always take up 15 minutes in the beginning of a meeting.
We have enough minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can start the notice process tomorrow, sending out the stuff to the abutters and the legal ads.
Who
Oh,
seconded me?
yeah. Do we have a second?
Second,
Excellent. All right. Any more discussion? Okay. I'll call the roll. Weston,
aye.
Bressler,
Hey,
take care.
Aye.
Pycroft,
Aye.
Bonner,
Aye.
Raymond.
I,
I'm an aye. Okay, there you have it. We'll have a public hearing for Mr. Geese at our January meeting at 7:15. What's the date, Michael? Oh, he's
January 13th, you said?
January 13th at 7:15.
Yeah.
Public notice is forthcoming. Peter, thank you very much for your time and coming here.
Thank you. I appreciate your time as well.
I look
And
forward to seeing you
forward
again.
to the meeting on the 13th. That'll be the next time we have to gather on this issue, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, very good. I will note it and make sure I'm available. And
Thank
it
you.
will be Zoom, of course, right? It's going to be the same format?
That we have not most likely, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll say yeah.
Mhm. All right, then. Excellent.
All
Thank
right.
you very much again for your time.
Of course. Thank you. Okay. Now I know this meeting has gone a little bit sideways tonight, so we're a little bit behind schedule on some of these things here. Let's look at climate section for master plan finance committee request. So this is at Michael's request, so I'm going to ask him to speak to this.
Sure. Hopefully this can be quick, but we shall see. So, and I know Keith and I have talked about this, but so we have a master plan that was updated last in 2008. And that was a big process. I think what I was thinking about, I think Keith, you can chime in and agree if you want, but the idea was we have no mention about climate change at all in the master plan. It was just, I mean, some of us were thinking about it, but it didn't make it into the document. So the idea would be to hire a consultant to facilitate a process, just to add a new section that's focused on climate change. So not redo the whole master plan, just add a section. The reason I wanted to bring it up is one, to see if we would do that, but in order to do that, there's sort of a chain reaction. So if the planning board said yes, you know, Nathan and I, whomever, can go to the FinCom and meet with them to basically have the FinCom consider putting it into the town budget. So then it would be considered a town meeting in the spring. We would have access to it starting in July 2025, which means we'd probably put out an RFP or something for a consultant in the summer or fall. So the work probably, we wouldn't have a consultant until the fall to start the process. So this is a project for next year. But if we, like I talked to AJ, the FinCom chair at special town meeting, and I said, we want to find out when you're starting your budget meetings. He said, oh, we've already started the budget meetings. So, you know, they're in play now, probably through about February or so, before, and then they start shrinking everything and they're not entertaining new ideas. So, you know, we could discuss it now, we could discuss it next month, but I think if we want to get it for next year's activity, we have to, you know, we got no money, so we have to ask the town for money to do it. Keith, is there anything you want to add to that, since we did talk about it?
No, not really. I mean, although I do worry that trying to how we could weave the public's concern or views on climate change into what's existing, the existing master plan. Because it's, there's bound to be some contradictions. I mean, there's trade-offs and contradictions with how people feel. And as I recall, the master plan, it seemed like a lot of effort was spent surveying people and interviewing people and getting them to rank their values, their town values. And then trying, I guess what I'm thinking is if you tried to weave in climate change after the fact, I don't know. I guess I'd be open to hearing ideas on how we might do that. I'll have to go back and look at the master plan myself and see.
Well, maybe in
how
the
it
interest
might
of
fit in.
time, in the interest of time, maybe it's just surfacing this question and we can revisit it next time. And I gotta say, having listened to two special permit possibilities and then knowing how life can get complicated, this will be a project. So if we don't have the bandwidth to do it, we don't have to. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss the window if we actually wanted to go forward. So up to you, Nathan, like how you want to handle this.
One thing I'm seeing is that, AJ in his response said February and March. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical of this, but I would be more in favor of possibly, having the conversation and letting a broader conversation happen about whether or not to do it. So that's but yeah, we can, I think there are some details that are worth fleshing out a little bit more. There's a question of the master plan. Was it ever actually approved at town meeting?
It was not.
It was not. That's what I thought I heard Deacon
It was
say.
not put forward because we thought we'd lose.
Okay, so that's a
Why do we have the master plan posted on the website? And
Well, it's an
if
interesting
it-
document. I mean,
It's aspirational.
yeah,
well, it needs to be labeled as aspirational because I've been viewing it as, hey, this is kind of a guideline that we kind of operate in. Huh.
Well, that makes it easy. We just have a chapter on climate change. It doesn't conflict with
just
anything.
absorb the contradictions.
yeah. So it's there's that, and then there's also we had Fuss and O'Neill do some work for us a few years back just before I got on the planning board, and whether or not that's I don't know, and that's a question kind of for you, Michael, in terms of
I'm fine withdrawing it. It's a little bit too much, I think. So
just drawing the conversation to right now.
yeah, we don't have to go forward with it. That's fine.
Okay, yeah. So we can just see if we can talk about it in January. And okay, thank you. Now, all right. There's a lot of we're not gonna obviously not gonna be able to talk about our zoning amendments and everything like that. There's a few quick updates that I'm just gonna really quickly go through. Too quick, but there was a question on what the heck is a single family residential zoning district. Initially, Donna sent us an email in the interim and suggested that it might not apply to Shutesbury. And then today we have a draft regulation from the state body that the act references that can promulgate regulations relating to this, the ADU question, and they define a single family residential zoning district very broadly so that it looks like it very well would include Shutesbury's rural residential zoning district. Regardless, my position was that we were going to continue our discussion on this because this has been something that we've already been really trying to drive towards. We've had a lot of distractions with the the Coles complaint against the town on the solar bylaw, right? And other things that have come up. So it's been the ADU requirement in the Affordable Homes Act was a welcome kind of impetus to really get the conversation moving, which I'm going for. But I thought we more or less were happy to have the conversation anyway. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. What I would like to do is start working on. So we have these questions. I'm going to ask Michael to send these out to everyone. Has this been sent out to everyone already, Michael?
No, I wanted to wait till we had this meeting.
We can't go into this now. It's just, we can't. But I want you to send it out. I want people to look at this and think about it. All right, we're going to have our January meeting first. We might, I think we're going to do an off schedule meeting on this. It might be an ad hoc subcommittee if it needs to be. I'm going to say I can do that unless someone tells me I can't. And we'll post it and do some minutes and we'll bring it to everyone else. We're not going to do anything obviously that we can't do without the full board. It's more or less talking and trying to get some stuff together. But what I would like is to try and start organizing a public forum to be held in person, probably at the athletic club, and potentially definitely some sort of town announce to put it out there and at least maybe give an opportunity for some points. This stuff can't happen before our January meeting because we need to button up a few things more before we start taking that step. But I would like to start addressing constituents. There's village neighbors, there's a council on aging. So I would like, the board to, I would like to hear a motion that says that I can go out and start speaking to some other bodies in town about what we're doing and that we're trying to put together a mechanism to gather some information and gather some feedback. One important thing on this, especially to the extent that it goes beyond the requirements of the ADU requirements that were put out by the state, is it would be a good idea if we had some it would be good if we had some idea of where the town inhabitants are on these questions we're asking, and because we don't want to spend all this time on this and then go to town meeting and just get totally blown out because nobody wants anything that we're doing with it, right? So that's the idea there. So what I would ask is for somebody to make a motion that would just say that the board endorses the chair to go out and start addressing other stakeholders for affordable housing in our community and trying to bring for purposes of information gathering and stakeholder awareness.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think it's a really good idea, Nathan.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you,
Feel
Nathan.
your passion.
Thank you, Nathan, for your willingness to do this.
I'm trying this. I look forward to it, but it's yeah, we all have full lives and yeah. So anyway, I'm going to call the roll. We'll say Weston.
Aye.
Bressler.
Aye.
Bycroft.
Aye.
Akira.
Aye.
Bonner.
Aye.
Raymond,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Okay.
You know, we have minutes up there. We're gonna do that. I think we're gonna have to do that in January. We can, and I know we have, are we still going into executive session tonight, Michael? We're not.
No,
Okay.
I wanna get that vote about mediation, but I don't think you have to go away. You can just recuse yourself and this. it'll
Yeah,
make
no,
it
I don't have to
easier.
go away for that. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I guess I was just gonna say, you know, we have the member updates item on there. Just a quick note, the Attorney General shot down the general bylaw for energy storage. I think everyone probably saw that. I don't know if anyone, I don't, Michael, do you have anything further on that, or?
I do,
You don't
I-
have to say it now if you don't want to. I just,
no,
you
I'll do
know,
it really quickly.
okay.
I got asked by Wendell, who also got rejected for a similar, if we were going to appeal, so I emailed Rita and Donna to say, you know, Donna, what do you think? And this is not a planning board thing, it's a select board thing. And Rita wrote back about an hour ago and said that she thought we should, I should present to the select board. So it's really a select board decision. Donna doesn't know, doesn't think it's a really strong case, but that's sort of the update. Whether the town appeals or not, it's really up to the select board, not us.
Excellent. Thank you. Um, there was something else. I saw it in the email. Oh, what was it? New question, Palmer plan. Oh, the DOER smart guidance. I saw, was that something that,
Oh, yeah. That was just a quick informational thing. So tomorrow morning at 10, from 10 to 12, DOER is having a webinar where they're sharing their next evolution of guidance around the smart regs. So this summer they did a straw poll, which is sort of like pre-draft regs. This is in between. So I did a straw poll, they got a lot of feedback. Now they did this, but it's preceding the draft regs. And so I think I shared the whole document, but I highlighted the fact that what they're proposing currently is that any land that overlaps biomap would be ineligible for a smart subsidy. So that's much farther along and clearer language than previous, and it's relevant, but we won't go into the substance of why it's relevant.
You know, I gotta tell you, I was encouraged after reading that, at least draft of the smart regs, because in it, at least they made a distinction between the Western Mass and other counties across Massachusetts and how they're, applying their rules and regulations.
And
So,
they had a thing where they called out counties that were overly developed in terms of smart, and Franklin County was it.
yeah. Well, so I think it bodes well if it keeps on going in that direction for us. But I want somebody to explain to me if anybody here knows who's been running the meeting tonight, because his voice is familiar, but I can't place the face.
Oh, the guy without the beard?
Yeah, who is that?
Yeah, I was thinking we should have like a Zoom portfolio of Nathan over a year or two to see his changing facial hair.
no, that won't be necessary. Yeah, you could probably get some good stuff from planning board meetings over the years. All right, it's again, I apologize. I mean, went a little sideways. I was really struggling when we first started here, and I guess now we just have this item with the mediation, right?
Yeah.
Michael, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So basically, in consulting with Adam Costa and Donna, but mostly Adam, about how to notice our future activities, what he said is that the planning board has to vote affirmatively to participate in mediation. So we had a conversation, executive session. We did not have a public vote. So I'll just read what he suggested the language be, and then hopefully someone will second it. I'll move that the planning board participate in mediation in the matter of W.D. Coles, Inc. et al. Versus Town of Shutesbury Land Court Docket number 23, Miss 00140. Parties, issues, and purpose of the mediation to be disclosed. Anyone want to
Second.
second that? Great.
Second.
And so I think in terms of further conversation, if we voted affirmative, then we can proceed with posting a mediation session that we discussed, which would be January 17th in Springfield for those who are not part of that.
What does posting mean here?
Well, it's the mediation would be executive session, but just like we have to post that, you know, we open a meeting and then we go to executive session, it would be the same thing.
So, okay, so it's just like something about the Coles lawsuit.
Yeah, there's language that he sent me,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
basically it's the exact same thing. Like, you know how we say reason number 3 or 4? There's
yeah.
a reason around mediation. So we would go into executive session around mediation.
Is the meeting going to be held in a publicly accessible place?
No, it's the executive
We do it
session.
on Zoom.
No, we're doing it in the Springfield office of Bacon and Wilson, which is where the mediator will be. And we are all, so we asked for a mediator from Western Mass and we asked for mediation to take place in Western Mass and we got that. So it'll be in Springfield, which is, you know, close enough.
But so when for the posting of it, is it going to be at that location or are you going to post it as a remote meeting?
No, it'll be posted as that location. So that's what I was asking. That's how this started. Is I asked Adam, I said, how do you post a mediation? Like, you know, and so he said, you have to get the planning board to, in public session, agree to enter into mediation. And once that's done, then you can post for the actual mediation, which is the executive session. It doesn't have to be in Shutesbury and it doesn't have to be public apparently, but you have to say where it's going to be and you have to say that you're doing it. And presumably you have to have minutes. All new turf, Nathan.
But the minutes, the minutes are disclosed under what conditions?
When just like all the other executive session, when the whole issue is resolved and there's no conflict with exposing them.
Yeah.
All right. You want me to call the roll, Michael?
Please.
Okay. Brasler,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Bancroft,
Aye.
Akira,
Aye.
Bonner. Bonner?
Aye. Am I muted?
No, you
Not
got
anymore.
it.
And Raymond.
Aye.
And I will abstain. The motion passes. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. And I look forward to seeing you all in January. And I'll be reaching out as I mentioned. You know, it seems apparent that we're probably going to have some off-session meetings here for probably more than one reason. You know, and I still do want to, you know, maybe have a good either with the full board or as an ad hoc subcommittee, go up to town hall and just have a good long, you know, like kind of focused conversation on some of these zoning questions, get that stuff buttoned up a little bit, and then you know, have the public come in and get some of that feedback and stuff like that. Keith?
Hey, Nathan, the one thing I had asked about was that the site visit report for Wheelock.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I thought we finalized that. Is there anything else that needs to be done with that?
Well,
Did I have that? I did put it on the agenda, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We had talked about making recommendations. So the distinction when we had the conversation, Keith, if you remember, was the report should be objective statement of fact. And then, you know, like Jeff had talked about moving the batteries farther than 10 feet to 20 feet. So that was sort of like a position that we, based on what we found, this is what we want to do.
Right,
So
right.
I think it's that conversation that we didn't have yet.
So I had come up with a couple of things that I think the email I transmitted, when I transmitted the document back to you, Nathan, I had some, whoever's going to communicate back with the company, and I assume we'd send them a courtesy copy of the report along with our recommendations. Is that something, Nathan, you would draft as either an email or as a hard copy letter from
Well,
the planning board?
I wouldn't know, but I think, so if, Ashley has been acting as our liaison with them. So if you have kind of what the questions are or the suggestions are, well, you could, hand that to Ashley to send to them. I would say that the board should say, kind of what you want to do with that. If you just email them, invite them, or, it's, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit more now, or I mean, we're still here, we're still in the meeting. So if anyone wants to talk about this a little bit more now, what do you have, or?
I don't think we've finalized the recommendations. I brought up the possibility of increasing the distance of non-flammable materials between the battery and the shrubs and the grasses. I don't think we finalized that discussion or even had it.
How about this as a process, Nathan? Like, because I think we approved the report, like the board approved the report.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
what
seems like Ashley can just send off, a copy to them, maybe CC us, so that gets off our plate. And then the question is, if we want to gather recommendations, whether Keith's several, Jeff several, or someone else, we could send them, to you, or we could send them to Mateo separately, so at least we can come into the next conversation with the list of what they are.
Sure.
So the email I sent Nathan, actually I copied you, Michael, too, on November 8th, had the 6 things I had from my notes from our conversation amongst all of us. So I don't know, that's something that everybody else would, how do we collaborate on this without meeting, I guess?
We send it to one person. And
Okay, so I sent it to Nathan.
Well, yeah,
Nathan, ball's in your court.
So the problem is that this wasn't sent out to the full board, so no one has seen it. So that's
no, that's a
Right.
good thing.
well, it's a good thing, yeah, but it's I mean, as far as like where we are at this moment, but yeah, so why don't you send that existing list out to the board, either Keith or Michael, and then Michael, you could post the report to the website as well.
Yeah, well, so I can easily post the report.
His report's
But
done.
but I think so Jeff has his thing and Keith has his 6 things. And so we don't want them, if we send it to everybody, then we're going to start having a deliberation online. So what I'm suggesting is there should be one recipient. I could do it. I mean, Keith, you got 6. Jeff's
Yeah,
only got
and
one. Maybe everyone sends it to you.
I hopefully I incorporated Jeff's concerns. That was they were from my notes of what other people had chimed in on. So
would you be willing to be the consolidator if people have recommendations and then you could bring it to the meeting?
Absolutely, sure.
Cool.
All right, so
how does that work for you, Nathan?
Yeah, people email Keith, and then once let's say by within 2 weeks.
Sure. So again, the ask is recommendations based off of our site visit, recommendations to the company of additional actions or activities they may take to make the site safer or more efficient or whatever. Is that capture?
Right. And then once you get all that together, send it to myself, or you could send it to Michael, and I mean, either way, and we'll just distribute it to the board ahead of the meeting. It'll be on the agenda, and then the board can address it.
Okay, sounds good.
And so we would wait to send out the report until we have the recommendations together.
No, that'd be
No.
separate.
So do you all want, sorry, do you want me to send out the report to the liaison and just say this? I mean, I hardly remember this report. It's from a couple months ago at this point. I know I
Well,
looked
fine,
at
yeah.
it.
And I'm gonna say, hey, this is our site visit report.
Okay, yeah, I
And,
can
and
do that.
Ashley, I can send you the PDF of the report.
I'm sure it lives somewhere in my email, but it would be awesome if it was closer to the top. Yeah.
There was a draft Word version that went around, but I made it a PDF.
Okay,
after
yeah, that would be
got
great.
Final edits, and then, yeah, just tell your contact that, hey, here's a copy of our report, and that we'll be forwarding on some additional recommendations
Could I
later.
Okay.
just forward that email that you sent with the questions you have already to everyone on the board right now?
You want me to send that to everybody?
Well, I mean, everyone has that, and obviously everyone knows, if you have anything to add to it or whatever.
Okay,
Just
that
yeah,
would
you-
make
you-
things,
you forward that to everyone. You can forward that to everyone, and then
I'll forward that email. That way people don't duplicate effort and.
Right.
All right,
Okay, so just so I'm clear, I'm sending them the report and I am saying, here it is, and further recommendations are forthcoming from the board.
yes, and that
Through
email
a
you're gonna get,
conversation.
the email you're gonna get from me that has the report PDF will also have the draft of those questions that's for our internal discussion later, or public discussion.
Which I'm not sharing with them right
You're
now.
not sharing that with them
Yeah.
yet.
Good. Okay, got it. I will look out for that in the next week or so.
Oh, it should be out tonight.
Okay. I'm not looking at it tonight.
Yeah,
Been a long day.
tell me about it.
Mm.
all right.
Move to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
Second. All right, discussion. All right, I'm gonna call the roll. Bonner,
Aye.
Pycroft,
I
Akira,
Aye.
Raymond,
Aye.
Wrestler.
Aye.
Did I miss somebody?
Weston,
Weston. Okay.
Aye.
Yeah, and Murphy, I'm an aye. The meeting is adjourned. Again, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
thank you
Good
so
night,
much.
everybody.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.